Ladies and gentlemen, it is the weather report for August 8th, 2022. And this is going to be a shit show. I just feel it. I feel it.
You're just saying that because I'm here. That's nice of you.
Yeah, well, I was part of it.
Well, we don't want you to get the big head, Jefferson, because of all the people that watched your live streams this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make up for lost time. Actually, my viewership has gone down because I think people just assumed I had disappeared. So
tonight, Chen is debating somebody named Benjamin who looks like
looks like he's from the 70s.
Well, he looks like Simon and Garfunkel's lost band member.
Maybe, but he looks like in some of my sister's yearbooks, like, from before 78 or 79, you could open up, the senior class or the junior class, and they look just like this.
Yeah, like a cross between Jeff Lynne and Bob Dylan.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, or that what is that ID crime story show they have on A&E or something like that, and they always show the yearbook picture from the serial killer.
So many of those that it's hard to tell from just that description.
And then on the left we have this handsome dude, Dr. Ian Chen, and
isn't he distinguished looking?
He is. Okay, so it's Benjamin versus Dr. Ian Chen.
Why does Ian Chen look like he's eyeing his webcam suspiciously, like it's spying on him?
I think he's eyeing the creationists. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be that he's just trying to intimidate him.
Yep.
With his intellectual grasp.
The Ian Chen death stare.
So I have linked that in my description if anybody wants to go over and click on that and get ready and wait for it. And I'm going to give it a like. Because I'm going to give it a
who
plus.
Doesn't like to argue about dinosaurs?
You see what I did here? I gave it a like. Everybody should give it a like.
And now, what channel did you say that was on?
Debate Cafe.
Oh yeah, that's a good joint there.
It is a good joint. So
they serve a good espresso.
Yeah. So what's up, Jefferson? What do you think of these religious people?
Well, to the extent that I try not to think about it, I don't say that much has changed.
No.
There was a Clubhouse debates. I think he did a premiere, and it was fan of this show, Danny, talking to a guy named McGruber who's been on Pine Creek. He was talking with Pine Creek, and he's a relatively recent Christian, but he, in a short space of time, he's gone from being convinced that there's a God in general by Darth Dawkins' arguments, no less, to now being a Christian, to being the type of Christian that fully believes in eternal conscious torment. Like, he's really, really committing. So, yeah. And I got props to Danny. He gives him kind of a rundown. He kind of gives him a taste of his own presuppositional argument from the perspective of a Muslim.
Yeah, Danny does a really good job when he goes up against these religious nutcakes.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
Well, I would say I've never run into any. I've never been at odds with Danny, so that's.
Yeah, but he's a weenie. I don't know if you knew that.
I know. That's yeah.
Well, I'm a weeb, so take that.
Anyway. Yeah, weeb and a weenie.
Or speaking of Pine Creek, wasn't Otangelo on there earlier today, I think. Or I was just peeking in, and
Well, he may
I
have
saw
been.
it was on there.
I kept ducking out, so I didn't see him, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I have no idea what they were talking about, but I just saw him on there, and I thought I should note that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Doug puts up with them as long as there's not somebody else wanting on.
Yep. Let's see. So, well, my Bible study this week, the topic is, does it matter if Jesus was real or not? Or if he was real, if the resurrection was real or not, does it matter? And I've been talking, I think it was on Amy Newman's stream, and we were talking a little bit about that. About, does it really matter to Christian faith, if you're a totally faithful Christian, does it really matter if the supernatural events happened or not?
Well, I
If
think
you- Go ahead.
I think they probably. I guess it depends. I think they have to, right? Because the idea that central to the idea that we're saved from sin, which is really the big distinction in Christianity from other religions, requires at least one supernatural act, and that's got Jesus being raised from the dead. So.
Right.
Yeah, but what about the Catholic thing where you go to confession and then you're saved from sin because you're not sinning now, and when you do sin, you confess and you turn it over, then you get to go to heaven, right? You get a clean bill of health, right?
Yeah, but that's only because that grace was in place, right? I mean, that's usually how that's established. So the fact that it's kind of weird because it gets convoluted when they, depending on which denomination you're dealing with. The only reason that you can be forgiven is because Jesus died for you.
I got to dip away for a minute. I'll be right back. You guys handle my show.
All right. So, what do you think about the general discussion on? I don't know what to call it. It's got a long title, but the thing that Randolph does every 2 weeks, that Taco does on Discord.
Oh yeah. I don't. Usually because I'm out of town, I don't get on those that often. But that was the longest I'd been that I participated in one for a while. And I mean, they can be kind of interesting. I think because of the structure of it, a lot of it is just sort of an open invitation for people to kind of come out, and instead of like, I don't know, and nobody. It doesn't seem like anybody that listens to the show really takes the title seriously. They don't show up to present like, here's how I became convinced of God, and here's what I think might be a good argument or might be a good reason to think that this is true. It's always it's more than often it's, well, I don't know about that, but I do know that you as an atheist have a terrible argument for a not God world. And now let me rattle on about why you can't ground facts in something, that kind of thing. And it's like, okay, that's not really the point, but
right.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of it I think is just more that I some of the guys that did join though, some of the people that were on there, I thought, especially some of the other atheists, I thought brought up some pretty interesting points. So it was interesting to listen to. I kind of lose my patience when I start getting the impression that it's like 2 or 3 people in a row that are clearly just there to pick a fight with Tom Jump. That's when I and you can hear it in the tone of their voice, like they're ready to argue, and it's like, okay, I think you just came here because you wanted to. I mean, it's more than just they want to turn the thing into a dumpster fire. They're specifically gunning for Tom. So
it's interesting you bring up TJ or T Jump the other day, because he said something interesting that I didn't quite know how to take in regard to natural selection. He said something along the lines of natural selection chooses which traits live and which die, which I like, you can see I wasn't too sure how to feel about that kind of phrasing, because I get what he's coming from or where he's coming from, and maybe it's only a problem if you define choice in a colloquial sense.
Yeah,
but
I think
I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, that's sort of like, isn't that kind of like the James? Because I mean, as Ozymandias was on, you're talking about that kind of defending James Fodor's kind of take on that, like the way that language ends up getting used, where they're talking about choice, but not in an intuitive way, right? It's not choice in the sense that a choice needs an agent to make a choice, make a decision between options,
Right.
and that's not really what's happening. It's selection, and then choice ends up getting thrown in as a word to use, because if you start using selection and then you start using select, you might as well be using choose and choices, and then you end up kind of inadvertently implying that there's agency behind this, even though that's not what the language is supposed to be doing. So yeah, I think it's clumsy, but it was pretty clear that Neff was hinging everything on that confusion.
Yeah,
Right.
it kind of goes all the way back to Darwin and how he kind of coined the term natural selection to begin with, when it's an okay way to phrase it, but based on what we know nowadays, it isn't a perfect name for it, because obviously nothing's being selected in like you said, in terms of an agent actually selecting or choosing one possibility over another. That's not at all what's going on. So yeah, I just don't know how I feel about, like I said, because I know where he was coming from in regard to saying it's not random in that sense, because that's always the confusion with evolution, is that it's inherently random, in a deeper sense, when it isn't in at least some cases.
Well, I mean, you guys are into more of the physical sciences than I am. What would you prefer to see become kind of the standard word to describe what's happening with natural, for lack of a better? It's usually it does seem to be natural selection.
That's a good question.
I mean, because that's the thing that I think is kind of odd about those discussions, because I get that, it's like, hey, when you start talking about this, it sounds like you're reifying science or reifying nature or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but I've never, I mean, even my fundamentalist Christian background, I never really had a problem distinguishing the difference between natural selection and choice as just the outcome of some kind of beneficial traits being passed down kind of thing. I didn't think of it as like nature is bestowing its judgment upon reality, and that's how things are working. So
yeah, it is kind of semantics at this point, I guess.
I think that's what frustrates me the most with it, because I'm not somebody who's really into the I don't have a background in biological sciences, and I don't struggle with that, being able to make that distinction and kind of suspend the meaning of choice and selection for those purposes, because it's kind of specific to that theoretical explanation. But yeah, I mean, if people end up thinking that okay, we need to pick a better term because there's just too much confusion, I'm willing to bet, and maybe this is just the cynic in me, this is not causing confusion. If confusion can be caused, and certain apologists are seizing upon that to create a problem where none exists.
Right. I typically think of when we say a trait is selected, in most cases we're using it as kind of a shorthand for, okay, this trait provided a benefit in this particular environment for X reason, and so it became more common over time, this and that. And obviously it's much easier to just say, oh, this particular trait was selected for in this environment, which I can kind of see how that can be useful. I guess just from maybe my bias in terms of biology, I think sometimes it does need to be clarified that there is no, like you said, conscious agent behind it.
Yeah.
But that's like we're talking about, that's kind of a what does this word mean? What does this word mean? Who gives a flying hoot sometimes?
And I think
at least in cases where it doesn't cause confusion, like you said.
Yeah, and I think if the situation comes down to somebody like Neffy, when you can hear when he chuckles, the smugness in his voice, like he's really he stumbled upon the Achilles heel of the theory of biology in the past, 200 years now, almost nearly 200 years. And he's just like, see, it's all a fraud. It was all, it's all the work of Satan. It's like, no, you really want to hinge that on a semantic argument? Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody, better equipped, I think, to come up with an explainer for it using, I think, more precise language, I think that's definitely in the mix. I think, and at this point, I think, given how desperate some fundamentalist Christians are to disprove evolution, is probably would help, because then they can't turn around and try to mischaracterize it, and then you spend the better part of what could be a potentially productive discussion arguing with them about semantics, and while they're
Yeah.
And this is where being disingenuous comes in. They know that that's not what's meant by choice and selection, but they don't care, because for the purposes of scoring their points and coloring the issue and making the scientific explanations look bad or wanting, they're going to continue to present it that way, because it's going to continue to influence people already sympathetic with them.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
So, Scott, anything you want to talk about?
Let's see.
I wonder if
Now-
Speeds isn't back yet.
I don't know. It must be his.
Said he had to take care of some family issues. But anyway,
Yeah.
what were we going to say?
Must be something going on. I was just thinking about from that discussion on Randolph's channel when Otangelo was in there, how he likes to use this vague notion of intelligence, about how
Right.
intelligence creates code, and intelligence creates language, and intelligence creates machines or molecular machines and things like that. That he's actually wrong with that, because intelligence by itself never does anything.
Right.
And
I mean, to some extent, you could say it's like maybe the ultimate cause behind an action in this case.
Mhm.
But you like you said, you can't really say it's the only thing that caused this particular arrangement to come about.
right,
Like-
and all we've ever observed for machines, all we've ever observed of machines is yes, on intelligent entities with physical manifestations created the machines and the factories and whatever else he wants to say. And the only thing you can conclude from that, because he's really just arguing by analogy, is that some other intelligence with physical manifestations created the genetic code or whatever. So he's really can only argue for, I don't know, a Zeus kind of god, or a Sumerian kind of god, or Egyptian, which, at least in its legends, walked around and did things and had physical manifestations and extensions.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just I just kept in the side chat pointing that out, but I don't know what y'all think about that as being kind of not really a total defeater of his point, but he's really trying to stretch it too much, and trying to make too much of the teleology of it, where he's not warranted to, because all you can really get to is maybe some ancient dude from another planet created life.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
A mindless, infinite, physical, add whatever.
Right. So it's quite a leap to make.
Yeah. Whatever worshipful words you want to say.
Well, on that, I wonder how he would respond to. Well, I have a feeling I know how he would respond, but like nanomachines, for example, like say we have, or I think we already have them, don't we? That like nanomachines that can kind of self-replicate.
I think that, yeah, they've done that. I think so.
Yeah. So how would he respond to that? Like you're getting machines from what most people would consider a non-intelligent or at least non-sentient material. So how would that work in terms of his argument?
There was one that I read about. I remember reading about this years ago. I think it was a nano machine project where they had created these very simple machines. They started flocking like birds or fish, and they weren't programmed to do that. It was sort of an emergent thing that happened as they were programmed to engage in other kinds of interactions.
Huh.
And then they started seeing this kind of flocking thing just sort of happen. I would cite it if I could remember where I read it. I think it was an old National Geographic article that I read years ago.
That sounds interesting. Yeah, well, as we all know, emergence is the a big driver of complexity in this wonderful universe we live in. Because I mean, you can bring up the example of, like you said, birds flocking or fish swimming in the ocean. They're not like pre-planning where they're going or anything. Or I guess maybe even a better example, or a more beautiful example, for lack of a better word, would be ant colonies. Like the ants aren't physically making decisions along the way, or I guess maybe they are, but they're not collectively doing that. They're like, if an ant goes in one direction, it leaves behind chemical pheromones, and the rest will start following more and more, follow as the scent from all these ants gets stronger and stronger as they go in that particular direction till they find what they're looking for. Then they come back to the nest, I guess, and the chemical trail goes away, and there's nothing predetermined about that. It's just all these
Hey,
Hello.
Midnight. How you doing, Midnight?
I'm doing fairly
Right.
well. I just remembered that the speech sent me a link, and I was like, you know what? I got no life.
You know what?
Easy.
I'm glad you're here with us.
Yes.
I need to
So-
get going, guys. I've got some things
Oh,
to do.
God damn it. Seriously, Jefferson? Well played, little bitch. Well played.
Well played. Way to go. So what have you been up to? Have you been on the on any YouTube streams lately, Midnight?
Other than Wild Hearts, not really.
Wild Hearts, yeah. Hey, John, we finally got you on here.
Oh, that's cool. Hello, everybody.
Welcome to hell, John.
That's right. It's,
Oh, really?
link hell for me.
All
Yeah,
right, so you
basically,
guys-
I can't. I don't remember the login information for StreamYard, so I can't get on StreamYard on my phone because I'd have to enter the information. So,
All right.
so
Yeah, I'm
anyway,
on my phone, actually.
So I did the copy and paste thing. But now I just thought about a way I could have sent it to you more easily. But you know, I was in the middle of side chat and trying to chat with Jefferson and Andrew at the time.
I was keeping
put,
Scott away from his mod duties.
From his appointed rounds.
Yeah.
You're keeping it from the appointed rounds. But yeah, I often park things in the email there to get it from one device to another or whatever.
Oh yeah. There's usually more than one way to accomplish something when you're dealing with computers.
Right?
There's more than one way to skin Schrodinger's cat.
That's right.
Why would you want to skin Schrodinger's cat?
Well,
I don't know.
He's both skinned and unskinned at the same time. It just
Yeah.
depends on the observer.
Well,
Midnight hates
it's
its
funny.
inability to.
It's funny you said that because I saw on Google today, and I didn't read the article, but the teaser for the article was, it said, "Don't look at this cat," and then it had two pictures. It had a picture of a cat, and then next to it, it had like an X-ray picture of the cat, or maybe like a skeletal dead picture of the cat. I mean, something like that.
Schrodinger's cat. Yay, there you go. The cat is both alive and not alive until observed.
Well, that Schrodinger cats thing has been overdone in TV shows and
Yeah.
stuff like that, right and left.
It's because Schrodinger himself actually came up with that thought experiment, I think, to show kind of the absurdity behind some of it, to kind of.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's stuck and it's still interesting. I mean, it kind of does show the like the uncertainty principle, but it's like, hey, you know what? Hey, you know what? A particle is, a particle is this until it's observed. Like you know the double slit experiment, right, Andrew? Obviously you do. It's like it's really interesting. It's like if the electrons weren't observed, you get the interference pattern, but if they were observed or measured, you get the two streaks lined up lined up with the slits. I always found that interesting.
It is. It was always fascinating to read about.
Well, yeah, it's because like if you go into it, you find interesting things like that, but it's when you ask someone about quantum physics or what they know about quantum physics, like usually the only thing that pops up is, oh yeah, some guy came up with a cat that's both alive and dead or something.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
So that's the only problem with it.
That's
yeah.
But I remember Richard Feynman actually asked the question, like, what happens if you have multiple slits?
Yep. Yep, that's the apocryphal story, probably, of how the path integral formulation of quantum physics came along, which is kind of helped with quantum field theory.
Yep.
My rudimentary solution to Schrodinger's cat is you just wait, and then your olfactory senses will eventually tell you whether there's a cat in there or not.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's one way of getting.
Or you take just kind of a philosophical approach to it. As a cat hater, all cats are as good as dead to me.
Oh wow!
Exactly.
Okay.
Wow, I mean, Jefferson, you're just saying that because you've been stuck babysitting your sister's cats forever, and they're a bunch of assholes.
That was a long time ago. That was well over a year ago. No, I don't hate cats. I hate cleaning up after cats. But
okay.
There's some cats I hate, and some cats that hate me. But every at least every 10 or 20 cats, I'll find one that where we get along.
Yeah,
if it's a kid, it's a lot easier to like.
Scott is scaring me right now because he sounds like he's talking about his years on the jazz circuit and all the people he killed, all the crazy cats he killed.
Yeah, those crazy cats. I didn't last long in the jazz circuit.
But I think someone else in side chat also brought up maybe the one other semi thing people know about quantum physics, which would be of course the wave particle duality, which isn't at all how it works. Like particles don't become particles and then they become waves at a different point. That's
I mean, hold on. If I could put it better, you can correct me if I'm not.
Okay.
Waves are actually made of particles.
Yeah, like classical waves, like water waves and whatnot, but we're not.
I mean, I would say light is as well, right? Because light is basically light is basically a string of protons. No, sorry, photons, not protons. Photons.
Right, but each individual photon has wave-like qualities in certain experiments, so it's a bit complicated than that.
True.
It's like I prefer to call them just quantum objects or just quanta because they can exhibit both wave-like or particle-like behaviors depending on how you choose to measure what you're measuring. Which is weird, of course, but that's just what we have to deal with at this point.
I feel like we're confusing John here, and
we're probably confusing a bunch of people. I'm sorry.
What?
See, he's confused.
I think
never has any exchange that you've been involved in, Midnight, ever confused me even a little bit.
I was going to say to the point that was just made about, I mean, wouldn't it, the wave and the particles, couldn't you do the same thing with people though? Maybe I'm being a little morbid, but like, I mean, I could be measured as one person, but I could also be measured as one walking bag of lots of different organs and sacks. So
yeah, that's kind of the
Well, wait a minute. You know what? What's his name? Was it Steve Buscemi in Fargo who got put through the wood chipper out the other side? Was that a wave? Like when his shit was, did that act like a wave as it came out of the?
Only in Eastern mysticism, I suppose.
Okay.
I just walked in on Eastern mysticism. Oh boy, was that timely!
Well, no, we were talking about. I was being facetious about a comparison to Steve Buscemi's character being fed to a wood chipper at the end of Fargo.
Oh,
well, I love to say one more thing, Jefferson. You have hit on one of the crucial philosophical issues about at what point does something stop being quantum mostly and starts being classical, or what we'd consider being classical. And I think there's a lot of different positions on that particular issue. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, classical, do you mean as in Newton classics?
Yeah,
Newton classic?
Yeah, basically. Classical
Look at that.
stuff is not
Wayne.
quantum, basically.
Wayne Newton?
That's usually.
Wayne Newton.
Not
Yeah.
Wayne Newton.
I've read all of his papers. They're brilliant.
I read into a video the other day, and the title was something like "Quantum Mechanics is weird because we are too big."
What?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I'm too big, but I don't know that has anything to do with quantum physics.
Well, let me blow your mind here. Okay, so basically, for starters, does everyone here know what a superposition is?
Yeah, just
remind
Okay,
me.
So
Just fill in the stupid joke, I would say here.
By the
so
way,
kind of
Icarus wants
to
to
put
know,
it very simplistically. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Icarus wants to know, what did Sal do this time? Sal goes eek.
Oh, he's a coward. He blocked me again, so he's not responding about us getting together. So I thought I'd poke him a little bit. That's it. Okay, go ahead. Superposition.
Well, I think I'll just summarize it here.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, we're kind of the oddballs here, because if you think of addition, basically, that's pretty much how the math of quantum mechanics works. In a simplistic sense, it's really adding up different states in such a way that they don't make classical sense. Like, to kind of use a kind of an absurd metaphor here, of course, but a superposition involving classical states yes and no would be, say, one over, or the kind of the square root of yes plus no, basically. And what does that mean physically? But the point I'm trying to make here is, since you can add up all those states together mathematically and represent them that way, you have an infinite, potentially infinite number of superposition states, but you have only one state that's yes and one state that's no. So we're not the ordinary states out there. We're the oddballs. We're the exception, basically. And that's kind of one thing quantum physics has taught us, is that classical world isn't particularly as ordinary as we once thought. But anyways.
I don't know, a long time ago, I decided that we are probably here.
We are probably here?
Yeah, when you think about quantum mechanics and you go to the macro level, you could just say that things are probably here. We're probably.
Yeah, but you can't justify your worldview state as an atheist. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I got this little piece of shit from creation.com.
Oh no.
Exit God, enter death culture, which is pretty cool.
Dear.
Exit God, enter death culture. Oh, let's see.
The culture worships death.
Why is this shit not showing up the way it should? Fucking StreamYard. There's something fucking wrong with StreamYard.
There's
Like,
always something wrong with StreamYard, if you ask me.
well, it doesn't show you the whole. It doesn't show you the whole camera range. You got to fucking shrink it. I don't know what the fuck. Anyway, this is creation.com. Okay, so they got this thing on death culture, right? So they're talking about creation week. What the fuck is that? In Genesis 1 is punctuated with God creating living things on 3, 5, and 6 days. And how God created all this living stuff, and then they go on to talk about Satan works to destroy life, murder, death. What about the flood?
That's true.
Yeah, how do they?
We don't talk about the flood. We don't talk about the flood.
The argument, though, there is a clever little argument.
Yeah, Satan's the one who destroys life. Yeah, right. Satan, sure.
But by killing all those people and preserving Noah and his family, God was preserving life.
Oh, I see.
That's a common defense.
So that's like the trolley car problem, except instead of save 6 people instead of 300 million or something.
It'd be more. It wouldn't be so much God failing the trolley car problem. It's more like, picture it more like a contagion ethical problem. All these people are contagious and you need to wipe them out and preserve. You need to cull the herd, so to speak, because everyone's diseased, that you can preserve the small little sub-population and start fresh. And yeah.
Right.
It's a superposition of God killing everyone and God saving Noah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
he can be simultaneously all merciful and all just at the same time.
Yeah, right.
So they get down a few paragraphs before they mention evolution. But can countries that were once strongly Christian expect to avoid similar consequences if we turn our backs on our Creator?
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
No. The evidence is mounting in our time where nations that once honored God's ways have abandoned God, aided by the grand lie of evolution. Okay, so
wow, the grand lie. No. The grand lie, the greatest grand lie is that we are all free. That's the greatest lie.
That we no longer need God. So they think evolution means that we no longer need God. It's just slam dunk. We see it in the developing culture of death, for example, in unrestricted abortion, even up to full term. Euthanasia, voluntary assisted suicide, indoctrinating children with gender-bending ideology, creating confusion, disaffection with life, and suicidal urges.
That's rich coming from them.
Okay, and
what is it you're reading? What is it you're reading from? What are you reading from, Speed?
Creation.com. Try to keep up, John. Things move real fast around here. I linked it in the description.
Holy fuck, I missed it if you said it.
Okay. Anyway, the last point is extremist deep green ideology that sees humans as a plague on the earth. They therefore support all policies that kill people or prevent people being born. So what the fuck?
Well, right. That's what I want to say about how you said that the unrestricted abortion. Yeah, right up until the day before birth. You can, rip a baby out of it. I mean, come on.
That's never been a fucking thing in any state, right? Isn't it like
ever?
No. Even the Roe v. Wade case, it's 24 weeks.
Okay, this last one, deep green. Are they talking about like climate change here?
They're talking about the movement called Deep Green. That basically there are about 5 people that are trumpeting it about reducing our population, and all they're saying is that maybe we should quit fucking overpopulating, right? And so they call it Deep Green, but there's no way that ideology promotes killing people or preventing people from being born, yes. Okay, it's a good idea that we all fucking consider that we don't need to have 7 children each anymore because it's going to fuck us, right? I mean, the population growth would be too fast, and sooner or later we're going to run out of wheat. We're gonna run out of Kansas and Iowa, and there ain't gonna be any more wheat and corn. No more room to plant it. So anyway,
I mean, it's hard for people. It's hard for a lot of people to grasp, but the Earth has a finite amount. This is every year. It's like foodstuffs and things like that. But as far as like the resources that we use to construct things, there's a finite amount. That's why they're looking into possibly mining asteroids.
Yeah.
I remember when a conservative tried to say that, well, you know what? You could take every living human being on the planet and you can stand them shoulder to shoulder and they would only fill up the entire state of Florida. I'm like, okay, do you think we can live that way?
Right, shoulder to shoulder, yeah. Yeah, I think I figured out that every human being back when we had 6 billion people would have 1.3 acres of land, and that includes the Sierra Desert, the Himalayas, all of that, right? So there'd be like 1.3 acres. Okay, and that has to feed you, and I forget what it takes to feed you. Yeah, well, no, I cut the ocean out of it. I did a calculation.
Okay.
Yeah, I came up with 1.3 acres. Yeah, if we could live in the ocean like whales and maybe we could evolve.
Well, don't you know, Speed? We came from whales.
Yeah, we came from whales. Yeah, yeah. My great granddaddy's a whale. Anyway, okay. So then,
sorry. Go ahead.
Well, are you talking about a new topic? Because I was leading up to something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay, so in this debate with T-Rock and Snake on Standing for Truth channel, he led with this whole, basically, evolution is evil sort of bullshit, which is sort of the same kind of... Anyway, let me play it and see what you think. You'll understand what I mean.
People know how to communicate in context, but I do find it necessary sometimes. And so here, the biblical definition of evil, and this is an inferred definition. You can read lots and lots of scripture. And the point of the Bible is not to explicitly define the word evil. Nevertheless, the inferred definition is that which tears down or destroys. And so the Oxford definition is distinct differences versus things like physical destruction. So if for example,
he said the definition of evil is to tear down or
destroy. Yeah,
that's the biblical. But
yeah, so his definition of evil includes wrecking balls. Then
I guess so. Okay.
Right.
Or a tornado comes through and destroys your house, that is considered evil by reason.
No, I think he's.
It destroys something that
was
useful. Type of what's the word I'm looking for in the Oxford definition? Profoundly, that word is a qualifier, and as you read the Bible, you can start pinpointing very specifically what constitutes evil, what constitutes that which tears down or destroys. Okay, so definition of evolution. The simple definition is changed over time. This definition in and of itself is entirely inadequate because everybody believes.
I think I see where this is going.
This is kind of in that crossover.
Let's see if I can get ahead to it.
And so that's when we're talking about evolution. This is actually what I personally.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the point he's making. There's simple change over time. There's the biological definition, change of inherited traits, and the implied definition, which is universal common ancestry of bioorganisms, which is what he's going to push back against. So
what's the difference between an organism and a bioorganism?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. Not sure.
Wait, is he making never mind.
Yeah, okay. Okay, what is actually being debated?
Okay, what is actually being debated? The implied meaning of evolution, universal common ancestry, and whether the teaching of it as factual Earth history is inherently evil. Of course, that is my position, that it is inherently evil.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Let's see why.
What is evolutionary biology predicated on?
Oh, they should be good.
Is it predicated on the scientific method? Does the scientific method stand on its own merit? Or is it underpinned by a philosophy or a way of thinking? The scientific method is actually underpinned by naturalism.
What kind of naturalism?
Yeah, methodological, not metaphysical, you ass tool. Ass tool? Where'd I come up with that? Okay.
You hesitate for a sec to come up with a good insult.
Moving on. No, ass monkey is my favorite. But anyway, okay, let's see. Most would probably say, okay, does evolution have a moral code?
Why does it need to have a moral code?
Most would probably say no, but that's no different than whether rocks have a moral code. They clearly don't. What?
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 What's the point here?
I don't know. But to teach or not to teach is a moral question. Oh, I see. So evolution. Okay, evolution is not by itself moral, but if you decide to tell somebody about it, then it's moral. I think that's what he's saying. Right. So how does naturalism or evolution decide whether to teach or not to teach? What? Okay, I got to see this.
Have a moral code? Most would probably say no, but that's no.
Okay.
So how does biological evolution, and furthermore, how does it decide whether teaching it is evil or not? In order to answer that question, a moral position must be assumed. But what moral position, and how is anyone to know whether that position is good or bad?
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
So he's making the argument that to teach evolution could
is
be
evil.
Considered immoral.
Yeah, it's evil.
Immoral.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's crazy.
Because apparently he's going to make the case that it tears down.
And who is this guy again?
T-Rock. I don't know if he's some sort of
it's not T-Jump, it's T-Rock.
T-Rock, yeah. He's a crazy.
And then so Andrew, so I think, like he said, what's the difference between an organism and a bioorganism? It's like he's saying, I had a meat steak for lunch.
Okay, now he's going to get into moral relativism.
And so evolution is left without an absolute moral reference frame from which to evaluate the goodness or evilness of a particular teaching, hence moral relativism.
Okay, this is what drives me crazy. Fucking evolution doesn't need a moral frame from which to decide anything. It's a scientific...
Right. Might as well argue that germ theory of disease needs a moral reference.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
You know what I want to hear now. Like I want to hear a debate just on that point right there. Is moral is there something wrong with moral relativism? Because there's not. Okay. Because that's what morality is based on.
He should have stopped at the tear down or build up, or whatever his definition of evil is, because that was just ludicrous and silly. There's a better definition, and he's being purposefully vague to make his little PowerPoint presentation kind of cohere together, because it's just inadequate to give his definition of evil.
Yeah, my idea of evil is if you decide that you alone are going to control the outcome for humanity or for a great population of people, and say you decide to that there are these evil people that you don't that you think are bad for the rest of humanity, and you kill them all, say with like a flood, for instance, then that is evil. Okay.
Well,
making that
decision. And Well, and then the great thing too is if you have a society among your creations that is sacrificing babies, and of course you go in and you kill all of them, including the babies. So, there's just all kinds of, wonderful moral absolutes to be found in the Bible.
Yep.
I just
Let's
want
see
to
where he
make
goes.
a quick point, and that is that it is a good question to ask. Based on what we know about science, how should we act, or how should we address this particular issue in our society or whatnot? But that has no bearing on the actual
Science.
proof of the idea or the science itself, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, and that he develops that theme a little bit, and I don't know if anybody else can see Hitler coming, but
oh dear.
Go back and look at the secular definition of evil. It actually incorporated the word immoral. But how do you know what's immoral if you don't know what's moral?
Fuck you.
To decide what is beneficial to society or not. So then it's teaching
how do you know what hot
evolution.
is if you don't know what cold is?
Immoral. Okay, so to answer that, what impact has evolution had on science, and what impact has evolution had on society?
Well,
So
props
I didn't
for him
dig
differentiating
real-
those questions at least.
What's that?
I said props for him separating those two questions at least.
Yeah, okay. Impact of evolution on science. Vestigial structures. Oh, we used to just cut out the appendix and cut out no, okay, that's a medical question, right? And we found out that cutting out tonsils causes other issues, right? And the appendix, well, sometimes you got to cut that fucker out because it'll kill you if you don't.
Chasing aliens, Nazi concentration.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, Nazi concentration.
Of
Wait a minute.
course.
That's the impact on science?
What?
I didn't know that. Yeah. Apparently Nazi concentration camps is
I
a
think we just ran out of stuff to talk about here.
science problem.
Vestigial structure. I
I mean,
don't
so
get-
is he going to go from there and say that the atomic bombs, that was...
Yeah, he should. Yeah, because that caused a lot of problems. But there's an interesting angle here that and it's been coming up in about 3 or 4 conversations over the weekend, which just kind of drove me crazy.
Deep here, I don't think it's altogether necessary.
Wait, can I say one more thing real quick?
You can, Andrew, but you got to give me a quarter.
A what?
Quarter.
Okay.
Venmo. Okay, we'll do it after the show. Go ahead.
Okay.
Say your thing.
Well, I like how John brought up the atomic bomb thing because I actually brought that up one point and used that to say, okay, we have atomic bombs. They, of course, killed a bunch of people, which is a very tragic event.
Right.
But does that mean that the equation E equals mc squared, which is what the physics of the atomic bomb is inherently based off of, is evil?
Yeah.
So
there's like the invention of the hammer leads us to Maxwell's silver hammer, bang bang,
Right.
Like, yeah. So like
that kind of thing.
If we hadn't invented the hammer, there would be no hammer murderers, so same, but it's the same thing. It's the same fucking thing, it's like, and they're not seeing it, but let's see what he says.
The position's well enough, but
you got a word to say?
Yeah, I was going to say I would go a step further.
No, I got
and
one
say
thing to
that-
say since you stopped. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Jefferson.
Yeah, not only is E equal to mc squared an evil spell, but that means the entailment there is that Albert Einstein is a warlock. Was a warlock.
Yeah.
No, he's a warlock. He lives.
Yes.
He lives in an ether powered by his own darkness.
Okay,
Yes.
Jefferson.
That's all I want to say.
Jefferson, you just reminded me of an exchange I had on Praise's channel, to where you had this one woman who had a really horrible experience with a Ouija board, and I swear to Christ, she said the creator of the Ouija board was a warlock that trapped different spirits in the Ouija boards.
Yeah, I knew.
Looking at the Ouija boards, when we're done with this speed, can I bring up a new topic? if that's okay when we're done with
Oh
this.
yeah, sure. If we ever get through this, but John wanted to go. So you guys got to understand the importance of a cue. Like Jefferson said something, then John started to say something, and now we're going to go back to John because John was after Jefferson. So John.
Well, no,
Sorry, John.
and it doesn't matter. I mean, I was going to make some. I don't even remember what I was going to say. I was going to make some stupid joke based on whatever that guy was saying. Can't remember what it is. Wasn't
Well,
important. We're past it.
Jefferson made the joke for us, so we're good with that. So okay, we're moving on.
I apologize for wasting everyone's time.
No. I apologize for existing and wasting everyone's time. I did you one better, Jefferson.
Thank you all. You're being a good little team today.
I'll do you one better. Where is?
That's where I was.
I want to get that Hitler.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I think it comes up.
Touted things like listic instructions, particularly in humans, is the context here. The appendix, tailbone, wisdom teeth, tonsils. Now, we can say for sure that the appendix, wisdom teeth, and tonsils have all been surgically removed, specifically because people thought they provided nothing of any great importance to
don't
Chasing
think
aliens?
that's why.
Yeah, okay. People thought that they were not of importance because they cut them out and the people didn't die. And that is a medical problem. It has nothing to do with fucking evolution.
Right.
Evolution didn't tell the doctors to do this. It's
Right.
like that evolution doesn't like
in the body. The person's gonna die.
right. Occasionally.
Okay.
so,
I need to ask something. Chasing aliens. What the
Well,
fuck?
we're getting to that. You're jumping the gun, midnight. Let's see.
It's an eyesore, but go ahead.
Okay, we're getting to that.
Midnight's just
found
more
out after the
quick-witted
fact,
than we are, so he just wants to jump ahead.
Unfortunately, that is not the case. The appendix harbors beneficial bacteria that aids in digestion. And
fuck you.
go wrong, but it's a good thing to do. And tonsils, there are some issues. I'm not going to discuss all that right now, but
Good.
The tonsils used to be considered
Move on.
there are downhill consequences. Basically, this is where science overlooked some very important research in favor of the idea that it was just evolutionary.
No.
What the fuck is? Oh, no. Nobody overlooked any fucking important research, right? Nobody has overlooked research because of junk DNA or because of the idea of junk DNA. That never fucking happened. How the fuck do you think we found all those other functions? Because we were overlooking the research? I mean, the idea of junk DNA was tossed out there as a reaction to the people who back in the 50s and 60s assumed that DNA had to be 100% functional. And then I think it was Ono and some others came up with the idea of, well, a lot of it is junk, right? It's like, that's how it fucking happened. I mean, they used to think it was 100% functional. Then they found out, oh no, there's a lot of non-conserved DNA. And nobody ever ignored research as a result of that. And they're just so full of shit that people ignore research because of an idea in science. It doesn't happen.
That's bingo card number 392.
Yep. Okay, let's get to chasing aliens.
Didn't do anything. Since then, many geneticists and microbiologists have dug a little bit deeper and figured out that it's not near as much junk as they originally said.
Wait. So what microbiologists? The ones that basically thought there was junk DNA? I don't know.
So it has absolutely hindered scientific progress to take an evolutionary path in your thought process. And chasing aliens, I threw that in there because, ultimately scanning the universe, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it has been a big waste of time. It has yielded absolutely zero results.
Why is it a waste of time?
I know.
Doing medical research and other types of things.
Okay. So now, wouldn't it make sense that instead of watching football and having football games and building stadiums, that we take all that money and we contribute it to medical research? I think football costs a fuck ton more than chasing aliens.
Right.
Yeah, and
Like,
if you quit funding
football
football,
career takes
There
more
would be
than
less
snake.
medical treatment needed.
Yeah, that too. There'd be less
there was a
brain
guy-
injury.
There was a guy like
I-
20 years ago that wrote a book. I think his name was Brian Singer, and part of his argument was that, and here's how dated it was, but he made the argument that anytime you went out and bought anything like a VCR, that
Yeah.
you were contributing to the ills of the world.
Right, right.
You know, so like your point is kind of spot on. Like, so you know, we're giving millionaires money to build football stadiums. Why is there one person starving on this planet? You know, that.
Yeah, what we need to do is take all those people that are working on the SETI project, and we need to put lab coats on and give them stethoscopes and have them go operate on somebody. You know, so they can do something useful.
Apparently, we need to do that with all astronomers because.
And the football
players. And the warehouse managers.
Why would I guess I don't understand. Why would he think this guy's ostensibly, assuming he's Christian, why would he have a problem with us looking out into the universe his God created for us to observe?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Energy efficiency, that sort of thing. Nazi concentration camps. We're going to talk a little bit about Hitler, of course. You can't hardly have these conversations without talking about the Holocaust.
It's not that
he tried not hard at all.
Okay.
Just don't.
Well, hang on. Impact of evolution on science. Okay, the last thing, Nazi concentration camp. Does he not realize that humans committed atrocities even before we knew of evolution?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can easily not discuss Nazi concentration camps.
Right.
Erase that last point, and
you can if you wanna. You know, just fucking don't talk about. Yeah.
What a twerp.
Yeah. Anyway. But he goes on.
Concentration camps were actually somewhat of a scientific research endeavor by the Nazis. They literally brought people in and dissected body parts off of living people and basically just completely abused their existence in the name of scientific
because
research.
The Nazi did it, therefore it's inherently evil.
As Ben Garzi also pointed out, Japanese did it during that same time period.
Yeah.
Right, and kind of add on to that, like is he conflating science overall with evolution? Like, of course, some sciences are better than others, and of course, some is more ethical than others. What does this have to do with evolution?
Evolution, nothing. And you know, pagan tribes and ancient cultures that used to sacrifice babies to make their crops grow, were they doing it because of evolution?
Yes.
Obviously. They knew all about evolution.
The darkness, the evil of artificial selection.
And you know, there were probably a lot of doctors and scientists who in Nazi Germany who did it just because they were afraid of the Nazi regime.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they did it. They did it for the war effort. Basically, the Nazis did medical experiments, and they learned a lot about trauma. And I think they did it for the war effort. It had nothing to fucking do with it. So far, this guy is a zero. So anyway,
I'm gonna.
That's not to say we think anything.
You're gonna what?
We're good. Just to make that point.
You're gonna what, Jefferson?
I got to go, so I'm gonna go for a quick walk. I just finished my din, so.
Oh, John left.
Okay.
Oh well.
Jeff.
Why are you gonna do me like that, man?
Do you like that? Don't do you any way I choose.
Yeah, fuck you. I'll get the fuck out of here. Get the hell out of here.
Thank you for the link. Thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Okay.
See you, Jefferson.
Bye.
See you later, guys.
Bye. Okay. I don't know if there's much.
What a
I'm
weirdo,
gonna put the link
Jefferson
out
was.
so that Snake Was Right can join us.
Oh yeah.
I just saw that.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sure you'll have a bit to say about this.
Principles of evolution that are unique to evolution produced any scientific advancements? Absolutely
Yes.
The two big.
Oh my god!
I think that's probably the stupidest question you could have asked.
Wait,
Like,
what
because
question?
that basically shoots him in the foot.
Has evolution provided any scientific advances? Oh my goodness! Viruses? Do we have to bring up viruses? Yeah, how about? Okay, right now there's kind of a big push to get the medical community to pay more attention to evolution because they were kind of going down a different track with cancer. And the track they should go down is evolution because cancer is an evolving population of cells that kills people. And it's very, very important for cancer. There are mutations.
I just want to note the specific way he worded it here. The fundamental principles of evolution. The fundamental principles of evolution are essentially the basics of genetics, which is used all the time in medical research. So the way he phrased it is kind of just shooting himself in the foot here.
Yep. Oh, let's see.
Oh no! See, according to him, that's like the best question you could ask. That's like a slam dunk question. Like, hi, you can't answer that. I win.
Snake is coming to tell us how he dealt with this motherfucker.
Hey, Snake is
Hope
coming.
he does.
Oh
yeah, it was his debate after all.
Yeah, it was.
He's coming.
Special creation are deep time.
My head blew up listening to this guy, and I only listened to a little bit of Snake's part because my head was like fucking leaking and falling all over the floor.
You should probably stick with
See,
what he says about geology.
My ears right now just want to kind of have like steam coming out of them because of all the stupidity. So I want to just find out how Snake was reacting in real life as he was listening to all this garbage.
Well, this T-Rock guy sounds like a normally intelligent human being, articulate and intelligent, right?
Yeah, normally, yeah.
I'll bet he could order from a menu at Burger King.
And he's spewing out this gunk, as you put it. And he was spewing out his gunk. I don't know.
Some sort of lubricant, oil or maybe antifreeze in his system that just got gunked up, and he just had to using science words.
Snack is right. Okay, let's just another. I'm not sure where this goes.
Body plans from one type of organism to another.
Why did we lose John?
Unique to evolution, produced any scientific advancements? Absolutely not.
John's internet probably blinked on him.
Oh goodness.
The two big things that actually distinguish evolution from special creation are deep time and a fundamental change of body plans from one type of organism to another.
Hey, remind me what deep time is again.
No. About what?
The implied part that he's talking about the common descent. So that's what he's pushing back on is deep time because he's a young Earth creationist, right?
What is deep time?
Anything longer than 6,000 years.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
pretty
wait,
deep.
he said special creation, not young Earth creation.
He said special creation.
Yeah, it isn't special creation like individual species being created. Or at least that's how it was used traditionally.
Yeah, versus
Pines or whatever.
Okay, and body plans changing from one type to another. Okay, they don't do that.
No.
Once you go down that line of a body plan, you're pretty much stuck with it. Okay, we got Snake here, so maybe you can just summarize this shit for us, Snake.
Hey, Snake.
Hello.
Greetings, Snake.
Yeah, that was fun.
I can't wait to watch that debate tonight between Dr. Ian Chen and somebody else who looks like they're from the 70s.
Yeah.
So Snake is
Benjamin's a cool guy, though. Actually,
is T-Rock a Yek, Young Earth?
Yeah.
Okay, he's a Yek. Wow.
All the typical standing for truth stuff.
Yep.
I debated him before on the age of the Earth, and he pretty much was like, "Oh, if you study real physics, the Earth is the moon was too close to the Earth. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, blah blah.
Yeah.
Real physics.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
the
I
young
remember
sun
he
paradox.
distinctly goes against radiometric dating in some of his stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he found real issues with it, which turn out to not be as real as he thinks.
Yeah.
I know, because I looked at it.
The graph I put up on today's thumbnail is an important graph, but it's going to remain the mystery graph. We're going to talk about it someday. But it has a little bit to do with dating. So, anyway.
The weather report has officially become a game show.
It's a game show. It's a mystery. Anyway, so Snake, how did you handle this guy with the Nazi bullshit? And
So I was just kind of trying to isolate like his variables of what actually makes evolution evil. There's the problem of defining evil, of course, which was actually it was like part, that part of the debate. But so he was going on, Nazis, and everything, and
Pol Pot.
like racism, and people who use scientific jargon to kind of sound like they know what they're talking about. But so I brought up, racism has always been with us humans before evolution. It's just people started using sciencey sounding terms when they were around to sound legitimate. It has nothing to do with evolution. Plus, these concepts in evolution that are being used are also present in the creationist conception, because they also believe in selection and fitness and those things that could also be used, as well as the fact that there's no actual difference between their concept of evolution and our concept of evolution for how those terms are used by racists, at least.
Right.
And I gave a bunch of Hitler quotes of him being a very Hovind-esque creationist, saying, men did not evolve from monkeys. The foxes only produce foxes.
Oh, how do you take that?
Hitler said this?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God! I gotta watch your part.
Did Hitler say anything about pine cones? Please tell me he did.
I can check, but I don't think. Yeah, not specifically.
The only
kind of dropped that subject after that, after the quotes.
The only reason that genocide didn't happen before Darwin was because they had horses instead of airplanes.
Right.
It took them a lot longer. So what they did is they would destroy an entire village, killing all women, children, every fucking thing. I mean, it's just what men do, and men do it for various excuses. And that is the definition of evil, is hearing but he's doing the same fucking thing.
And I pointed out how his young Earth creationism, biblically based, actually demands genocide in their book, and it's okay when God calls for it. But
it's just basically his attempt to muddy the waters toward evolution. That's all it is.
So basically, I got him down to admit that all of the things he's listing were not actually reasons why evolution was evil. The reason evolution is evil is because it contradicts young Earth creationism, which is, of course, his truth.
Right.
And he went on about how, this was a great part, how evolution doesn't have a moral code. And it's like, neither does chemistry, neither does collecting coins. He's like, but everything has to have a moral foundation, or else you can't decide what to do with your time. And I was like, that still doesn't distinguish evolution from anything.
What to do with your time is really not a moral thing.
No, it isn't.
I guess it can be if you're a really hard and fast Presbyterian or something like that, who were among the people that invented the American work ethic or something, equating your hard work with your righteousness. But no, what you do with your time is just choices.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of butthurt because all these kids are going to college, and when they get in college and they start talking to non-Christians, a lot of them don't go back to the church, and that hurts them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a fucking thing to do with evolution.
Yeah, they don't want to concede to the fact that maybe it's because the things that you've been teaching your kids is false.
Yeah.
And the idea of evolution doesn't even contradict divine command theory, which is what his morality is based on. All it does is contradicts the natural history that goes along with his moral foundation, which is a horrible foundation. But so we kind of argued that for half the debate.
Then he comes up with a article in creation.com by Jerry Bergman. That was the next thing. And I managed to listen to a little part of yours, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I'm going to try to listen to more of what you said and try to ignore what he said. The eugenics.
I recommend that. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hey, real quick question, Snake. Do you like when you're on a different YouTube channel than your own? Do you still have people like Cinematic score your debate just for feedback?
No, but we should do that. We've been wanting to like review other debates that we didn't host or anything like that. Both like, jokingly and for real. Like we were going to do a debate in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Stuff like that.
Yeah. So Dr. Ian Chen is debating tonight.
Indeed he is.
Yes, we didn't know about this. He didn't tell us.
And both me and Cinematic debated his opponent tonight on this topic. So we're going to try to remain very neutral.
Okay. Anyway, I linked that in the description so that everybody can be over there, and I'm hoping to be over there.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Did you see this? Oh, Tangelo's here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, speaking of dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, go ahead.
Did you ever happen to clip out that conversation I had with Bubblegum the other day?
Oh, I do have that.
You want to go for that real quick?
Oh, shit. Okay, I've got it in a spreadsheet, so I got to find it.
Okay.
Did I actually didn't I clip the quotes? Did I screenshot them?
Did you do that?
I might have. I'm not sure. Let me check.
You
guys
just talk about it.
Well, you guys chat about something else, and I'll try to find it.
Okay. So Snake was right. Do you have any expertise or I guess background on embryology?
I mean, a little bit. My major is on developmental stuff, but I don't have like any specific. I haven't taken an embryology class.
Okay.
What do you want to know, Andrew?
Well, I'm just curious.
I'm interested in Evo Devo.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you know how creationists, they talk about, okay, you need a brand new gene to make the left arm versus the right arm, etc., or to get feathers and all that.
Nope.
And what I find interesting is the fact that looking more into embryology and embryonic development, the basic processes are really all kind of a lot simpler than that. Just putting the genetics aside for a second, it's really the cells kind of talking to each other, and some cells will fold inwards and produce these kind of tube-like structures, and that's how the kind of proto-neural nervous system develops, I guess. What do you think of that topic?
That's why, mammals. I mean, we share like 60% of our DNA with jellyfish. So, but like mammals are all pretty much in the 90s of similarity. and a lot of the differences like between humans and the apes is like regulatory genes. And so basically what we're working with is kind of like a Lego set that can create, you have all the same pieces, but if you put them in a different combination, they create different shapes.
Right.
And so you can manipulate like Hox genes and put things in different places. And that's how it works, is like a lot of like skin, hair, beaks, fingernails,
It's all made of the same material.
Feathers. It's all the same stuff, just arranged in a different order.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with physics, Andrew, and it's there's gradients, okay, from one side of the cell to another and one side of the organism to another,
right,
going in all three dimensions. Okay, you have these various gradients, and then there are some genes that are turned on by a certain ratio of two different opposing gradients, right? Like from the posterior end, it'll be high. In the anterior end, it'll be low. And then you got another one that's high in the anterior end and low in the posterior. And then somewhere in the middle, at about 50-50, that combination will set off, basically turn on a certain Hox set. They call them cassettes, basically. It can turn on like a number of different genes that will do something. So then the cell will grow in a certain way. But if cells are pushing against one another, and the let's see, the top of the cell, basically, how the hell is that, becomes constricted because there are actin filaments that are basically girdling the top of the cell like a bell. What'll happen is it'll fold in, and it'll make an invagination, and that will end up becoming a tube, right? That's one thing. Then there's other things like for the neuron, what happens? You have a mass of cells, okay, and one of them is very, very slightly ahead in a certain in a certain protein than all the others, and it gets elected as the winner. And what it does is it sends out lateral inhibition to the other cells, and they become glial cells, and that guy becomes your neuron, and that one starts to divide. So it's all these really tiny little effects combined with physics and all of these analog gradients and things like that. And all you have to do is modify that just a little bit.
Right.
And you'll end up with an entirely different kind of tissue type, right?
Right. And that's the point I was trying to make, is that you don't need these like Snake was saying, you don't need fundamentally new genes to get these various body parts. You just need to change the relationship between the ones that already exist and how they interact with one another.
Yeah, all that comes
with the multicellular algae experiment. It was just a mutation of an existing gene that led to different regulation of cell division, so that only some of the cells will divide, so that those become reproductive tissues. And there was also a mutation in how they like stick together.
So we've actually documented that. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they'll stop dividing after a certain number, a set number, and then some are selected to be the reproductive cells, and others don't reproduce ever again, or divide ever again.
So it's kind of they've set up a sort of apoptosis at that point.
Yeah,
I guess,
well,
or not really that. Just they stopped dividing altogether, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I got my terms confused there a bit.
Yeah, and this is all, it's just using existing genes that they already had.
Yep.
Yeah, it comes from the illusion that there's a blueprint in the DNA for constructing, limbs and things like that, and it just doesn't work that way. And that's that. And the thing is, when you start to understand it at the level of all these very small changes in gradients and lateral inhibition and things like that, when you understand it that way, you can see evolution so clearly That's why Evo Devo is such a great thing. It's just absolutely
incredible. I think so.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Do you remember what that debate was?
It was the bubblegum thing.
Yeah.
It was from Erica's most recent video, I think.
We could probably summarize it, right?
Okay. All right. Here goes.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Otangelo also wants the link. It says it's pinned, but I'll let you deal with that.
It is pinned.
Okay. Okay. So you guys will love this. So on in Erica's video side chat the other day, I was having a little disagreement, shall we say, with Bubblegum, and how, according to him, if the idea that an asteroid killed the non-avian dinosaurs that caused their mass extinction is to be believed, according to him, we should find all these dead dinosaur remains in the very iridium layer that formed from the asteroid impact. And he's saying because there are dinosaur fossils meters, quote unquote, below that layer, the asteroid idea is bunk. So
ain't he precious? I mean, this is the second theory he's come up with. The first one, what the hell was the first one that he came up with?
Yeah, everything should have been, the genetics should have been scrambled, so we shouldn't be able to tell what eukaryotes are related to, or something like that.
Right. Yeah. You shouldn't like because eukaryotes and prokaryotes split a long time ago. Everything should be scrambled or something. I don't know, something on that order, but it was equally precious. But the dinosaur one was amazing. So in that little tiny little strip of iridium-rich sediment, we should find all the dinosaur bones in there because they all died right there. That's pretty cool. That's really rich. I love them.
What's interesting, well, like I was saying before when we talked about this, I forget his name, but someone in the side chat was basically noting how we've actually found dig sites basically above. That's pretty close to that layer, and it has these dinosaur remains in it that may or may not, or some ideas, I think, that it may have been one of the last populations of dinosaurs to die before the kind of full climate change effects of the asteroid impact kind of kicked into gear. So yeah. We have evidence that they were living up to that point, and then, like I was telling him in the side chat, beyond this boundary we find no non-avian dinosaurs, and that's the real sign that this layer has something to do with their extinction.
But that's historical science, not observational science, of course.
But of course.
It's not like you can tell with a degree of high certainty that past events are
right.
Were you there? But the word of prophets, that's yeah. Well, that was another thing in this debate is T-Rock tried to prove that, the Bible is real because, and that his faith and their prophets are real because those prophets actually did perform miracles, and you can trust them because they said so.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty, I don't even know what to say to that.
Yep.
Bullshit.
Yeah, unfortunately my webcam is the built-in webcam is busted, so I did not have my camera.
I wanted to ask you real quick, what were you thinking and doing, like, in real life as he was listing out all this garbage stuff, especially like the Nazis and the All the like wisdom teeth stuff. What was your
Facepalm?
reaction?
I mean, I laughed a bunch, but a lot of it was kind of while he was giving his opening, I was kind of going over my opening and kind of trying to pre-structure my rebuttal. So,
yeah,
but a lot of laughter.
It was pretty bad.
Laughter is probably the best medicine to ridiculousness.
Yep.
That's what the Reader's Digest used to say.
Does T-Rock have a channel?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Oh, he
Donnie
does.
was like,
No,
he does?
Yeah, Donnie listed one here.
Okay.
Oh, he does?
Let's take a look at it.
Well, I was going to ask too. You've got Ian Chen and his interlocutor tonight. Have you got any others? Have you got any others lined up on Debate Cafe?
We don't have a date yet, but we've got Dr. Robert Zubrin debating free will. I forget his interlocutor.
Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
No,
He's
what the topic is?
He's the head of the Mars Society. The topic is whether free will exists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was scheduled for last week, but he was sick, and so we had to reschedule.
So Donnie linked another debate with T-Rock and James W. I think it was. Yeah, he doesn't have a channel apparently, so he just linked another.
Which one is that? Jay Bundy versus Kent Hovind debate?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I got to find out. I got to listen to Jay Bundy's 13-hour stream and sit through it and try to find.
Been scheduled yet?
I think it may have. He's doing a. I think they got a confirmation that it's going to happen, and he's doing yesterday or today. I think he was doing debate prep. So he's like, "How much prep you got to do for Hovind? All you need is a hearty laugh and insults. I think is all you can do."
You'd be surprised how difficult it is.
He's a master of distraction.
Oh yeah,
he'll get you off on something, and then he'll bring up something else dumb, and you're trying to juggle 100 idiotic things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to focus on one. I like the way Arn Raw handled him. He didn't let him say one false thing, and Arn jumped on him. That was on.
That's kind of the way to go about it, because otherwise he'll just dish gallop.
Yeah, well, Standing for Truth does that too. He basically addresses the question briefly, and then he spins out a big line of garbage, and at the very end of it, he baits you with something you cannot fucking resist.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you take that, and now you're on a new topic, and it just goes on and on and on. And at the end of it, he claims victory, and he actually is victorious because he wears you out. I mean, you can't fucking keep up with this gallop.
And he sets the goalpost so high. Then you explain why it's stupid to set the goalpost there, and then he says, "Oh, you didn't meet my challenge."
Yeah. Show me evidence of like what is his favorite on transposons? Show me evidence of a transposon jumping or some fuck. I don't know what the fuck.
Because only the great SFT can decide what predictions are and what they must constitute.
Show me in real time a viral infection becoming a functional.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
a necessary functional ERV element.
Yeah. Show me a gene, a de novo gene.
He actually thinks that's the gotcha.
Yeah, he does. Show me one motherfucker crawling out of his grave after 3 days.
Yeah.
Show me that paper. I want to see that paper.
And then a bunch of already dead motherfuckers popping up out of the grave.
Yeah. Well, guys, we have a lull. What should we do? Should we be shooting it in the head?
I thought we were going to play more of my debate.
Oh, we could. Okay, we can do that. Oh, let's see. You want to play what part we want to play? Want to play his part or your part?
I mean, maybe discussion would be fruitful, or the rebuttal portion is kind of good. I think I quoted Hovind in the rebuttal.
Okay, God, you got any idea where to get a timestamp? Okay, this
I
is.
wish there's someone who always posts like good timestamps under my videos, but he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just respond to one thing?
It should be so.
Here? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so it's 2 14-minute openings and then 8-minute rebuttals. So like 38 minutes, 40 minutes in, I think should be my rebuttal.
Morality is okay. Oh, I'm not showing it. Why am I not showing it? Oh, I don't have my camera started.
The gold standard of young Earth creation is testable predictions.
Okay. So what the hell? So whose slide is this? Is this still him?
Or yeah, that's supposed to be his opening.
Okay, it still is opening.
And obviously there's like a bunch of stuff before the debate even actually starts. So
okay.
I don't know how much to add.
What do you got?
Absolute moral reference frame. And so
this displays a misunderstanding of the topic. Vestigial.
Okay, so this is
that was partially it, yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to find the beginning of you.
Evil does tear down and destroy. I think essentially good boils down to existence and coexistence. Again, I'm not a moral relativist, and I didn't make up these definitions. I think that they are the English definitions of these words. I am a moral realist, and I believe that morality is objective, and that is why I have such a issue with the subjective morality of particularly Quranic or biblical worldviews, which rely on the subject of God and not objective moral facts. However, I am encouraged that you actually did provide a definition for evil, which I can agree with. Perhaps we can work on that foundation, because I believe God would have actual justifications beyond "I said so," right? So, yeah, evolution doesn't have a moral code, just like collecting stamps does not have a moral code, just like chemistry doesn't have a moral code. Just because evolution doesn't have a moral framework doesn't mean I can't have a moral framework. Evolution has nothing to do with my moral framework, yet they exist alongside one another. Just like my having a driver's license does not have a moral framework. Again, these things are completely irrelevant. Like, what do you expect it to do? No science has a moral reference frame, and evolution is just a part of science. You might say that it's wrong as a science, that it's a failure of evidence. I don't see how this leads to moral nihilism or moral relativity, as no science has a moral framework. Even sciences that were wrong in the past do not have moral frameworks. So I believe in evolution and moral realism. God is moral relativism, though, as explained. So, trying to go through some points here. Yeah, evolution just doesn't comment on morality. So, to address some of your points, I guess I'll end that section with evolution doesn't comment on morality, and it doesn't prevent a biblical moral code either, as most Christians believe evolution just fine. As for some of your points, I'd like to address vestigial structures. This displays a misunderstanding of the topic. Vestigial structures are not claimed by evolution to be totally useless structures, nor has there been any harm specifically from evolution on that. If we don't know the function of it, it's not really informed by evolution. But on the contrary, evolution would define these structures as structures that no longer have their ancestral function. That does not mean that they no longer have a function at all, and that is you can find that definition in the textbooks and the dictionaries. As for junk DNA, this concept has not really been overturned. believe what you're probably referring to is the ENCODE project, which redefines the term function, biological function. Normally, when that term is...
I just want to point out that ENCODE no longer calls it function at all. So they call it biochemical activity, I think. So.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I bet SFT was probably internally fired up when you said that.
Yeah. So the thing about evolution having something to do with morality comes from this idea that because we evolved, there's no meaning, or there can't, or because of random chance, right?
He didn't really try that.
He didn't. Okay.
He tried to say that it necessarily led to like moral nihilism, just the belief in evolution.
How the hell would that work?
Because it doesn't have a moral foundation. He didn't really explain it.
Get one somewhere else. It's like, if the convenience store is out of fucking jelly beans, go to the next store. Go to Walgreens.
So then he got it down to it contradicts the correct moral foundation, which is biblical creation.
Yeah, I want to hear his rebuttal. But okay, so you direct me about where you want to go, Snake. Okay, you want to keep listening?
Yeah, I think the best part of the rebuttal is coming up.
Okay.
If you want to hear my voice some more.
The best is yet to come. Sorry.
We do.
A gene that is that translates into a protein. What the ENCODE project said was if it has any biochemical activity at all,
there you go.
then it counts as function, which means if it bonds with H2O, anything like that, it's counted as having a function, which is not a biological survival function. So these are two very different terms. I would like to keep everyone away from equivocating those terms. That's a fallacy. As for chasing aliens, I have no idea what this has to do with anything. I guess we're not supposed to be spending money on space exploration in
or football
too creative a way. But I think things like cancer are given more funding, and evolution actually helps with that. So yeah, that goes to another point you made about
Amy Newman's in the side chat.
Of whether evolution has produced any scientific advancements.
Amy.
You say no. Perhaps you're unaware of how protein modeling is used. Evolution is used for that. Evolution is used to predict all kinds of things with genetic research. AIDS research, it led us to not only understand what it's doing, but understand its behavior. Epidemiology in general is tracked with evolutionary principles. Genetic engineering and genetic medical diagnoses and technology. AI learning uses evolutionary principles. We're able to find fossils using evolutionary principles that in precise locations and predict their forms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are so many applications of this that I'm not even mentioning. These are just off the top of my head. As for the sin of racism used for evolution, actually, I addressed this earlier. These are the societies he's talking about were socialist societies, not evolutionist societies. And I've talked about scientific sounding words that they used. They're just snake oil salesmen. Flat earthers don't speak for physics just because they use terms like buoyancy. Your question of how do we know if people are right and wrong? Do we wait around for a God to tell us? No, this isn't reliable. First off, how do we tell which God and whether that God is correct, or whether the people telling us about this God are correct? But this is easy to do. Slavery is self-contradictory. It's illogical and thus cannot be corrected by any meaning. It also reduces existence and coexistence and destroys and tears down. And so this is why it's important to look at the Bible, as it cannot be true because it has self-contradictory moral codes and is based on the subjective will of God. If I've got time, I would like to address a quote from Adolf Hitler that might launch us into this discussion. The fox remains always a fox, the goose remains always a goose, and the tiger will retain the character of a tiger. Where do we acquire the right to believe that the man has not always been what he is now? The study of nature teaches us that in the animal kingdom, just as much as in the vegetable kingdom, variations have occurred. They've occurred within the species, but none of these variations has an importance comparable with which separates man from the monkey. That is from Adolf Hitler. And that reminds me of a certain Mr. Hovind.
All right, that concludes the opening statements.
That was pretty good. Yeah. So where did you find those Hitler quotes?
I just looked around. Some of them are like from Rational Wiki, but
Okay.
I just Googled Hitler on evolution, Hitler's religious beliefs, because it was wrapped up in me also trying to show Hitler believes in God, because he talks about God's will, superiority of man.
Supernatural.
I guess, yeah.
He's like a real supernatural nut.
What today I believe I am acting in accordance with the will of the Almighty Creator. By defending myself against the Jew, I am fighting for the work of the Lord. And then at some point, I forget what part, but I quoted Hovind. Kent Hovind says, in God's perfect law, if we would continually eliminate, execute people that do these certain crimes, we would gradually get a much better society that not so many people have this mean gene in them. So T-Rock wanted to talk about eugenics and genocide, and yet I hear a bunch of creationists, including Hitler, talking about eugenics and genocide.
When did they start breeding dogs and cattle? Basically, selective breeding of cattle and dogs.
Oh,
it was a long time.
As soon as agriculture started.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can derive all the Hitler stuff, the eugenics stuff, all of that from just the act of breeding better sheep,
yeah,
sort of thing.
Yep.
The thing is that the point I wanted to make is that no matter if you have something that you believe you want to do, or something like some crazy oh my God, it's John. What the hell is he calling me for? What the fuck, John? Hang on a second. Okay, if you have something that you want to promote, right? You can come up with all sorts of rationale for it, right? Like you can come up with all these little facts. You can use science. You can use the Bible. You can use whatever to basically come up with whatever you believe. That's my definition of evil. My definition of evil is rationalizing some act, basically, that creates havoc or harm of another group of people by coming up with these little one-off rationalizations. And he's doing exactly that in his presentation, basically. And that's the ironic part about it.
Yeah.
That you can use the Bible to promote all kinds of bad shit, as you can use many other things, right?
And he's literally using it. We talk about this. He literally justifies and excuses genocides and infanticides.
Yeah.
And we touch on slavery, but I focused more on genocide just because of the topic matter, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and infanticide has been an economic reality in a lot of cultures in the past, and I think the present. Basically, has nothing to do with evolution. So I don't know. Anyway, okay. So we're let's see. So we go to rebuttals now.
That was it. So now it's open discussion.
It is, okay. You want to play a bit of that?
If you do. Yeah.
The physical realm.
Yeah, we want to end her pretty quick, but we'll go a little bit further. Okay.
And it is evidence, i.e. evident. It is evident. And to put a little better point on what biblical faith is.
I think we start talking about
faith is actually
do you want to pause it?
The process of hearing.
I think the first 10, 15 minutes we're talking about faith and is evolution even true? If you want to listen to that part. But
do we
deeper
want
into the debate, we start talking about evil and stuff like that.
to go a little deeper? Let's try it right here. 107.
Simplistic deal. Exactly. What did you draw? Why did you draw it? Who did you draw it for? What are you using it for? Is it idle time? What is it? It's something. It's not nothing.
What is he talking about? You remember?
This is when he's like, everything has to have a moral foundation, even painting a picture.
What?
And so I was like, so how does that distinguish evolution from literally anything else?
Yeah.
So my morning shit has a moral foundation.
He would say yes.
Yeah. Must. Let me know if you find out what it is.
It has nothing to do with
No, don't, John.
morality.
Yeah.
If I decide
it
to
actually
Okay.
does.
if I decide I want my tree to be red, how is that a moral question?
It's not a moral question in the direct sense. Am I doing right or wrong in that sense? But it has a moral underpinning, because somebody has to decide whether it is a waste of time to draw. Somebody has to decide whether there's a benefit in drawing. Somebody has to decide, is there a message behind the drawing? It has tons and tons of moral implications. So the moral underpinning is there.
Hey, can I interject here, please?
I'd hate to be in the side of this guy's mind on an
Wait a
average.
minute. So he says that every decision, no matter how minuscule in life,
everything
has a moral component.
Yeah, if he lives that way, he's got to live a pretty shitty life, right? Like, should I turn? Should I go left or right when I want to cross diagonally?
Yeah, I mean, morality in I order a sub and have it delivered. Like, what is this guy fucking talking about?
Morning shits are the basis of moral fiber. Oh my god!
I kind of get what he's saying, but it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's being.
Well, no, and that's what Speed's saying too. Is like, okay, yep. If that's how you want to live your life, let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah, he's constructing like a Frankensteinian version of normal daily life, right?
Well, he's just trying to come up with an answer.
Yeah.
To my question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's go.
Whether or not you perceive it, and whether or not it's beneficial or harmful, that's kind of a different thing. But everything has a moral underpinning.
If I'm understanding you right, you're saying that everything has a moral underpinning because I could be using that time to be doing something better or worse.
Hey, pause it real quick.
Yeah, like football.
Okay, so he was saying something about whether or not it does harm or not. So he's separating the idea of moral, the moral value of a decision from the idea of harm. Did I hear him right on that?
I think because some actions might be like a waste of time or it might be harmful, and he defined evil in this as something which destroys or tears down,
which is so vague.
Yeah.
Well, right. You weren't here, and I said,
his God
well, that means that according to his definition, wrecking balls are evil.
Yeah, and like when you're doing bodybuilding and trying to build things up, you have to tear your muscle down.
Yeah,
literally. So it's kind of it's just kind of weird.
Oh yeah. Anyway, okay. So he's probably scraping the bottom of his intellectual barrel. Is that what he's doing?
I didn't realize we had the actual star of this event in the room right now.
We have the star of the. Oh, we have another star.
All right.
Amy Star.
We need some good intro music for our celebrity atheists who pop in.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Sending love to all you out there. Sending love, Speed and Scott and John and Lizard. But evolution is totally not evil or good, just like they're trying to explain, Taylor was trying to explain in the debate. There has to be just amoral, as in lacking anything at all, because it would mean that gravity would have a moral connection to it, and I can't see that.
Yeah.
Well, like what do you think of Speed's point that if someone tried to live that way, where there was, a moral question to every action, like how would that life go?
Well, you'd be neurotic as fuck, and there are some parents that are like waste not, want not, and they drive kids crazy.
Yeah, there are many ways of approaching religion that does cause a bit of neurosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even see Amy's lips move when you answered that question that I asked her, Speed.
Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, we're full of magic here, Amy.
Yeah.
That's right.
Moving on. Okay.
Or perhaps you're doing it because there's a message.
How does evolution deny consequences? Because as I understand it, evolution is almost exclusively about consequences of genetics.
Boom!
It's not. Evolution is by and large, as I pointed out, one of the telling questions that I pointed out is, and I think you tried to work around this, but I don't think you effectively did. Name me something. Name me some technology that has been produced based on ideas that are unique to evolution and deep time.
Artificial intelligence.
I named a bunch and he just ignored it.
It's not unique.
Wait a minute, just please stop right here, okay? Because I want to point out that this T-Rock guy, okay, Lizard asked him a question, and then T-Rock responded with something completely irrelevant to the question he was asked. He didn't address the question at all.
No. Yeah, that's why he's scraping the bottom of this intellectual barrel. That's what happens.
He goes, okay, next topic. There's a lot of that during this. I meant to say paleontology, sorry. Yeah, a lot of paleontology is based on evolution.
But what technology has it developed that specifically requires the major tenets, which are deep time and universal common ancestry?
The technology is the method. It doesn't have to produce like a computer program.
So
the technology, in a sense, is it could even be me writing down on a piece of paper. I know that the birds are in these layers, and dinosaurs are in these layers. Paper is a technology. It doesn't have to be that much of a technology. The technology is in the method of saying, if these are connected, then there's going to be an in-between phase.
So you're talking much more about predictions than you are technology. I'm asking what technology has ever been derived.
It's still
okay. Artificial intelligence basically is based on evolutionary principles.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Yeah, no, you did.
And then, yeah, in the rebuttal, he might have missed it, but AI learning is evolution. You can do evolution simulators and they'll evolve functional elements.
Yeah.
But he specifically mentioned deep time and common ancestry as principles.
Yeah.
So I went with paleontology.
Yeah, but you can go on other games and simulate God though, man. So
yeah, but artificial intelligence itself, basically neural networks and wherever the hell they are now in the technology, is based on selection. It's based on selection of it, with outside information coming in, too much information for us to handle with our little brains basically comes in and it selects these pathways, and that's how AI is developed.
Yeah,
but what's your problem? What's your problem is though, Speed, is you're responding to my comment as if it was serious.
Oh.
Should have known.
I'm sorry. Okay, moving on.
Still technology.
That's not a technology. That
yes,
and furthermore, let me go on and clarify something about that. Even if you thought you could somehow convince people that that's technology when it's not, even if you thought you could, the problem is that creationists can also go out there and find the exact same things using completely different thought process.
They can't.
Yes, they can.
No, they can't
have.
because they
do.
didn't, and they never have.
Never
Every
have?
single
Statement.
one, yeah, every single novel. You can go out and find another Archaeopteryx, but guess what found the first one? It was always evolutionary process. Same with all of the other transitional forms. Were all discovered using evolutionary processes. There is no creationist who went, I predict that there will be a Tiktaalik because for no random reason I just predict it. No, the only reason it was predicted is because of its features and its location. And that's also the way it was found, is because it was predicted in that location.
You're talking about somebody had an evolutionary assumption, went out, dug a hole, found what they were looking for, and then voila, that's technology. It's
That's
not
how science
technology.
works.
But my big point here is that anybody who just randomly dug a hole could have found the same thing. And a creationist who assumes a global flood can use different thinking.
Oh my God. What the hell?
If I just find anything and I blame it on evolution, that's how it works, right?
Right,
Well,
right.
I mean,
Anybody who dug a hole.
the only reason
random hole.
why I can't remember the guy's name, why he was there at that location is because he knew the rocks that were there were the age of where he expected to find the transitional Tiktaalik. So it's Schumann, Neil Schumann, I think was his name. But yeah. So he just missed it right there. He just demonstrated
Big swing and a
incompetence.
miss. Big swing and a miss there, Scott.
Also,
Yeah.
There's
sure,
no reason.
you could dig a hole,
You know,
but if you dig far enough, you're going to start noticing different layers and different strata, and then you're going to end up, I don't know, with something that looks like evolution.
Yeah.
And there's no reason a
So-
creationist would predict a transitional form.
He probably doesn't understand how it really works.
He certainly ignored
So-
that point.
So apropos of nothing, I just noticed that Standing for Truth is using his real name now.
Yeah, Badinsky. Don't be a Badinsky.
Donnie is all I see. What, he has his last name up there too?
He uses his last name on his channel now.
All right.
He does. As do I.
Donnie Snarko.
Yeah, I decided fuck my consulting career. I'm going to use my real name. I guess I'll only go to work for secular institutions. Yeah. Anyway, if I ever have to go to work again.
Institutions that are so backwoods that they don't know about YouTube.
They don't have the internet, right? Yeah. Okay.
Whether they have or not in the specific example of Archaeopteryx is irrelevant. But
Where's the example?
An example is by biblical definition, if the world was fully flooded 4,400 years ago, and it was, we should find marine fossils all over the world, and we do.
Hey, real quick. I like that argument technique. And it was like he says, if this and it was like
that's bold of them. But find marine fossils all over the world. Yeah, okay. So anybody want to address that one? I don't even know how to address that one.
Well, everyone predicts marine fossils, so that's not a novel prediction.
Yep. Everywhere there was an ocean or a lake or whatever, you're going to find marine fossils. So
It's like when they make a statement that you're never going to see a monkey give birth to a non-monkey. Well, that's actually what evolution dictates, that their parents are always going to be the same as the children. It's just till you get populations of drifting apart far enough that they just can't mate anymore.
Well,
to Speed's point too, it's more that they don't accept, tectonic science. They don't, when they talk about the fossils all over, the sea fossils all over, and then they also talk about why are sea fossils way the hell up here, and they want to disregard any kind of tectonic science.
They do and they don't. They will they will say that there shouldn't be sea fossils, basically sea fossils on mountains, but still they will claim that the continents slammed into each other at 45 miles an hour during flood year.
Holy shit!
Week. Yeah, that's what they believe, and push the mountains up. So if it pushed the fucking mountains up, why wouldn't you find them up there? I mean, I don't know, but
yeah, I didn't even realize that. So that's their answer to that all of that tectonic action happened during the flood.
Yeah, as Raw Matt says, if the continents weren't moving really fast, they couldn't have pushed up the mountains because they had to slam into each other really fast in order to make the Himalayan mountains. That's what Raw Matt says. And Standing for Truth has said that too. Now, isn't that the greatest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But in their defense, okay, the flood geology does predict that if you find a fossil, you're going to find it in the ground. Okay, so there's a prediction right there.
Well, they got a point.
They do
there.
get that part right.
Yeah, they got that part right.
Holy shit, man! You really had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find something positive to say.
A clock twice a day, or a broken clock.
Yeah, they predict that all you need is a shovel and some dirt, and you can go find a fossil. So, anyway.
Just dig a hole.
Yeah. Hey guys, what do you say we shoot her in the head? It's kind of 6:10.
Well, wait a minute. Amy just got here, and you want to shoot in the head?
Well, Amy, is that okay?
Hey,
correlation is not causation.
I'm just in for the ride.
You're in for the ride. We can go a little bit further. So, where do you want to go, Snake? You want to stay here, or you want to go further?
Let's see. We could go a little further.
Go further, like jump ahead.
Yeah, maybe 10 minutes.
Well, let's see. Where are we at now? We're at 113. Let's try 123. There you go.
Is that evolution destroys a moral foundation.
It does.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, it
Except
does.
you can still have your Christian moral foundation with evolution.
No, you can't.
How is that true?
Because, so I'm going to kind of go back to the nuts and bolts of why it is.
We lost sound.
I didn't say biblical creation, it's a Christian.
Okay, but I'm telling you why it is that they don't go together. It is not the moral equivalent to be let's say a what do they call them? Evolutionary creationist or a young earth creationist. They're not actually morally equivalent. Now, again, I'll leave it up to God to decide who's saved and who's not saved, but by biblical standards, they're not morally equivalent. And the reason is because evolutionary teaching in general eradicates the Genesis history, replaces it with a completely different history. And in so doing, what happens is you read the very plain language of Genesis, and it says God said this, God did this, and gives a very historical point-by-point explanation of how we came to be. And when you teach people to not read it in that context, what you're doing is you're telling them, oh, by the way, it's also okay to go over there and read "Thou shalt not kill," and put a different spin on that too while you're at it. And so it leads.
Okay. Oh my God, this bullshit. Okay. So if you don't take everything literally in the Bible, then you can't take anything that the Bible teaches you. Is he too dumb to understand what a fucking metaphor is? Or what metaphorical teaching would be?
Nothing goes over his head. Yeah. He's too fast.
Yeah. It's like you have to accept the 6 day or 6 day of creation, 6 days of creation. Otherwise, you're gonna read that "Thou shalt not kill," and you're gonna misinterpret that too. It's like, does he think humans are idiots? I don't know.
Yes,
I guess so. Yeah.
And I don't see any Christians having a mass movement of saying we should take Jesus metaphorically.
Yeah.
Just because
there's a lot of Christians that already do,
There are a bunch that do. And they should, because, you know, if you constructed your faith in Christianity without belief entirely, and you didn't believe in anything supernatural necessarily, you did not believe in it, you didn't believe in it. You just take basically the faith itself. That's all you need. That's all you fucking need. And that would make you perfectly compatible with all the rest of the world and all of science, and there would be no question, and you could just go on and have strong faith. Problem with these guys, they don't have any faith. They want science to show them that all the other people are wrong and they're right. It's just over and over again.
But the vast majority of Christians do literally believe in Jesus, while believing Genesis accounts are not literal.
Yeah.
Somehow they're able to preserve the more important aspect of their religion.
You know, I brought this up many times, but I'll bring it up again. So I was a teenager in the 1960s. And prior to the born again, the hippies got into this whole born again thing in the early 70s. Prior to that, when you went to church, you very seldom heard about Jesus. And people didn't walk around saying, praise Jesus. They said, praise the Lord, praise God. It was all about God. Then all of a sudden, after 1970, this whole thing became Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. It's like, how in the fuck did that? How did this kid end up taking over so thoroughly in the last 40, 50 years?
Jesus is supposedly like more loving and peaceful, so I guess it's more palatable to modern sensibilities.
Well, there was that 70s Jesus freak movement. That came out of the hippies.
Yeah, the Jesus thing took prominence. Like, well, I went to a Presbyterian church for a couple of years when I was like from 6 to 8. And I swear the only time they mentioned Jesus was on Christmas. You know, that Christmas mass that we had. Other than that, it was God, 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 God. There was no Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. I don't know what the fuck happened.
See, someone came in from the PR team and they're like, look, God, we don't know how to tell you this, but you're not as cuddly, so we're going to have to start selling the Jesus juice.
It's kind of like Kent and Eric Hovind. Kind of like,
I think, too, that the Pentecostal movement and the, speaking in tongues, the charismatic movement became very popular as well. And, of course, they're into thank you, Jesus, praise Jesus and all that. So a lot of it kind of focused in on the 70s and just kind of branched out from there.
Yeah, I think it changes.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I'm going to head out.
Okay, John, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for being here, John.
Bye, John.
Yep, have a good night, guys.
Can I go with John? Okay, let's go. We're going further.
Well, we got about 45 minutes till Ian Chen is on Debate Cafe.
Yeah, and I got to fucking make dinner, so we got about 10 more minutes.
Leads to absurdity, and it's a self-defeating position. You want more theological reasons why they're not morally equivalent. It's because the Bible says that except you become as a little child, you shall in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, if I read the Genesis account to a little child, they're going to conclude that God created the earth in 6 literal days. And
pause it for a second.
What did he just say?
They're going to, I don't know, but I remember I just had this flashback. I think when this debate was going on, and when was this debate?
A couple days ago. Oh, was it last night?
Well, then I must have seen him somewhere making the argument, because it just feels real familiar. This argument he was making, and I apologize, but it sounded so dumb. I just didn't think I needed to watch the rest of the debate.
Yeah.
So I moved off, and I apologize, Snake.
You got to be as a child when you read molecular biology and evolutionary science.
Yeah.
You got to be like a 6-year-old and read it that way, and then you get to the truth of the matter.
Yeah. I think it was 2 days ago, actually.
Yeah, I think it was the day before yesterday.
It's all blurring together.
Yeah, it all blurs. Oh, why do we do this, guys? Why do we do this creationist bullshit? Well, I guess because we have to.
But taking the evolutionary approach to undermining that history, all you're doing is opening up the floodgate to turn everything the Bible says into allegory, which is uber common in
Why
the
not?
Christian world.
No, because they're actually biblical scholars talk about how they can tell the difference between like poetry and metaphor and
Sure they do.
just recounting actual events. And most Christians do not interpret it like that. And
Sure
they haven't gone and interpreted Jesus out of the Bible for thousands of years using that same framework. And the problem.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say they do come up with these very fancy explanations, and you want more theology on why we know that they're wrong. It's because internally they're inconsistent. We can tell when somebody stands up in the name of Christianity to defend evolution, and they start giving their reasons. We can just read more scripture and say, wait a minute, that doesn't align with this, and that doesn't align with this. And so the example of becoming as a little child is just one of many, many examples how we know that. Other examples include how the prophets, the biblical authors from one end to the other referred to Genesis as a literal historical event. So yeah, they have some explanations. They do some fancy weaving of ideas to try and convince people. But internally, when you read the plain text, not just Genesis, but through the entire Bible, you find out that they are internally inconsistent in doing so, and therefore they are not the moral equivalent of reading the text as it's plainly written.
I suppose somebody's done a in-depth sourcing on what he just said, the internal inconsistencies. Does anybody know where one would look for such a thing?
Well, it's a doctrinal thing. It's a theological thing. They, of course, because they have different points of view, they're going to disagree. It's just this guy doesn't accept any disagreement with his strict literal interpretation of the Bible. It's very intolerant because his viewpoint, his I'm going to say worldview, but I hate that word, would just shatter if he, just said, okay, well, we interpret it different. You go along, Instead, he says, you're not really a Christian.
Yeah, these guys must think that most people aren't Christians. I don't know. Hard to say. Okay. Move on a little bit here.
I don't get that sense from the Bible, but so if you're saying that the problem with so I think that you have a problem there. So either you've got if you're saying that you can only have a biblical literalist creationist framework for anything, and evolution is in conflict with that foundation, and you haven't shown any way that that's the correct foundation, but so either you have evolution destroying the foundation, or in my estimation you have the foundation destroying itself, because your literalist creationist framework is based on a self-contradictory subjective moral code. So which one do you want to destroy your foundation? The foundation or things built on it?
So you're doing essentially the same thing as the evolutionary creationist apologist does. You're basically making a claim about the Bible's internal inconsistency, but you're inconsistently reading the Bible in order to do so.
No, because the Bible advocates genocide and slavery, so that can't be a consistent moral code.
The Bible does not advocate.
No, not my Bible.
It absolutely does not advocate.
Not my Bible. How dare you say
It just gives you some rules about what how to treat your slaves. It doesn't tell you to have them.
Here's the right way to do a genocide.
Yeah.
If you're going to do one.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I think I've had it with this guy. I don't know, for the time being.
Yeah, I get such a short fuse, and Snake really stated the point I was anticipating really well. I should have kept my mouth shut.
Yeah. So, Amy, you remember that discussion we had on your channel when I woke up early and you were still live?
I think so.
Yeah.
Remind me though.
Well, it was kind of about the same thing. It was about having faith and not having belief, basically, and just being I have met some Christians that just don't. They aren't concerned with all this bullshit. Did this happen or did that happen or was that historical or was this historical? They just take some sort of a richer form of faith that doesn't involve all of this fucking fragmentation. Like when he was talking about, like, if you're painting a picture, right? You got to consider, is the paper worth it? Is the paint worth it? Is my time worth it? That's sort of a Frankensteinian way to live. Now, if you apply that same thing to their faith, right? Instead of just having this deep spiritual connection and faith, they have to have all these little tiny things that they're fighting over and struggling with and trying to figure out. You don't fucking need any of that to live a perfectly rational.
It must suck to have basically your worldview come in conflict with the best process by which we have ever had. This is what makes planes, trains, and automobiles.
And iPhones, man.
iPhones.
Yeah.
And yet they have to bump up against it and say that exact same science, there's a good portion of it that's evil, satanic even.
Yeah. Yeah, but they, they could have predicted that you could just build an iPhone by getting a shovel and starting to dig. And I don't know. I'm going back to another connection. I made with fossils and I failed. So anyway.
And another point I'll just say about people like this guy is it's very weird because it puts up this pyramid of if you don't believe in this one thing, I'll keep on being a Christian. As long as evolution isn't true, I can keep on being a Christian.
Right.
And yet it just seems like that is easily knocked down. Yeah. So that's an easy pillar to join.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems that young Earth creationism has with their children when they go to college and they start to understand how this shit works and they say, wait a minute, this stuff does work. Then they throw out the whole goddamn, religious bundle with it. And so they're shooting themselves in the foot and they just don't realize it. But their hope is that they're going to take over and mandate our beliefs with the government. If you listen to some of the assholes that are running in the primaries, they've said that all loud, that they want a Christian nation state. And,
sure, and with Christians, it is a heads I win, tails you lose. Either A, they take over the world, and so you get this Christian ruling theocracy, or B, they are so persecuted, and that persecution actually becomes evidence of the truth of Christianity.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, boys and girls, I think we're going to shoot her in the head for the day. I'm a half an hour overtime. I have a rule about 2-hour shows, but is that all right with everybody? Any great protests? Anybody?
Yeah, the atheist union is going to be pissed at you.
Yeah, anybody want to picket outside my house right now? You're welcome. I'll feed you with the raccoons.
Yeah, well.
Anyway.
I will add on to Amy's thing that I just heard they predict that people won't believe them, and somehow that's supposed to make it more believable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
But Speed, we have to talk about morality and spirituality.
We do. So
and socialism, I think.
So socialism? Yeah. I guess maybe that's part of it. I'm not sure where I am on that.
Okay. I think you wanted to talk about that a little bit, but
yeah, I'm a capitalist socialist. So
interesting.
I always call myself a hippie capitalist pig. And a friend of mine said that I am a walking contradiction with myself. But anyway, so why don't you send me an email? We'll schedule something for maybe, let me see what's happening this weekend. I'm getting Snack, my new kitty, I think this weekend. But I think I can still do a stream even with Snack. Yeah. Okay. Little tiny kitty. He's about 6 ounces and he's feisty as shit. And my go ahead.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, my 2 cats are going to eat him within 15 minutes of him arriving. So it's going to be a short pet. But that's why I named them Snack. Loki, Thor, and Snack. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, send me an email. We do have to have a talk about atheism and spirituality. That's kind of a... And John Peterson and Scott and I are going to have a Sunday morning show about that, starting this Sunday. We keep delaying it. But I think it's going to start this Sunday, and we're going to hit some of those topics, and we're going to have guests. So there's a possibility. But you and I need to have a talk.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty.
Okay. Good enough. So
good to see you guys.
Yep. And thank you, Amy. I don't see you very often. I'm guessing you're sleeping at this time of the day. But
I was going to say, so there's daylight. I have to normally board it up so I don't burn. It's that holy water that I have to fight against. But I'm glad to be on here. And I just want to say, Snake, you were awesome in this debate.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You were awesome. Yeah. Okay, guys. So goodbye, cruel world.